Ms. Dayalpyari Srivastav on field graph modeling of quantum systems. Mrs. Dayalpyari Srivastav obtained her bachelor's degree in physics and master's degree in electronics from Dayalbagh Educational Institute in 1985 and 1988 respectively. She has been actively involved in physics education at the college level for nearly 15 years, and in particular, science education. Mrs. Srivastav is an active participant in several seminars and conferences. One of her papers on sensitivity analysis was widely appreciated at IIT Kharagpur. She has won numerous awards and honors and was recently also the recipient of a Best Teacher Award. One of her invited papers was recently published in a special issue on quantum computing, the Journal of Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. She has won the Best Paper Presentation Award in the session on quantum and nano-information systems at the Joint International Conference on Applied Systems Research and the 23rd National Systems Conference. She is an avid researcher and currently pursuing her PhD in quantum information and computation jointly between DEI and IIT Delhi. Her research interests include field graph modeling of quantum systems and the theory of many things. This is Dayalpyari Srivastav.
Ladies and gentlemen, the topic of my tutorial is graph theoretic quantum field modeling for quantum information, computation circuits and algorithms. In the words of most revered Professor P.S. Satsangi, linear graph theory represents one step towards a system modeling discipline which coordinates various branches of knowledge into one scientific order. This paper introduces graph theoretic quantum field modeling, which is facilitated by considering the fundamental unit of quantum computation and information, namely a quantum bit or qubit, as a basic building block. Graph theoretic field models have been applied to model systems to explore emergent characteristics to address high-end complexity problems, which are both contextual as well as observer-driven. Unit pointing like vectors ket0 and ket1 constitute two distinct fundamental quantum across variable basis vectors specifying direction of propagation, as it were, of information, while complementary fundamental quantum through variables specify probability parameters for quanta of information. This model has been applied to several gates and also applications such as quantum teleportation. Although quantum theory arose in context of microscopic systems, but quantum field theory can be applied to macroscopic systems as well. An attempt has been made to extend field graph models to string theory by modeling Lorentz transformations and the light cone coordinate system. An iterative equation has been proposed to explain the growth of complex systems. MATLAB simulations of the model have been carried out and the results obtained are very encouraging. It concludes with a note on theory of many things, which will span perhaps diverse kinds of systems, including natural systems, designed physical systems, designed abstract systems, and human activity systems. So we begin with a single qubit, which is the basic building block. And the mathematical representation for a single qubit is ket psi is equal to alpha ket0 plus beta ket1. So there are two subsystem graphs here which are used to represent the ket0 and the ket1 part of the equation. The ket0 part is represented by A1G and ket1 part is represented by B1G. And G here represents the common ground or datum reference. Ket psi is the Poynting energy flux or power vector. Ket0 and ket1 are the orthogonal unit Poynting vectors. Alpha and beta are the scalar power flow along ket0 and ket1 unit Poynting vectors respectively, and these are complex numbers. The terminal equation for ket psi turns out to be y transpose x bar, where y is the classical through variable vector and x bar is the quantum across variable vector. So it is the inner product of the y vector and the x vector. Superposition of two independent qubits, ket psi 1 and ket psi 2 are the ket psi 1 is represented as alpha 1 ket 0 plus beta 1 ket 1, and ket psi 2 is represented as alpha 2 ket 0 plus beta 2 ket 1. And the quantum graphs have been shown in the slide. On the right hand side is the composite representation. So it is a superposition of two qubits in the state ket 0 and two qubits in the state ket 1. These are the terminal equations. So finally we get the terminal equation for ket psi as y1 transpose x1 bar plus y2 transpose x2 bar. A double qubit as a product of constituent qubits can be represented both in the disaggregate as well as aggregate forms. So in the next slide, that is this slide, we've represented them in both the aggregate as well as disaggregate forms. Now actually I won't be speaking much about the gates because I presume that already a lot has been explained regarding the gates by Professor Vishal Sahani. So I'll just touch upon these topics. So the first is the Hadamard gate operation. In a Hadamard gate, ket 0 is transformed as ket 0 plus ket 1 by root 2 and ket 1 is transformed as ket 0 minus ket 1 by root 2. So the input power term is shown by the graph on the left hand side and the output power term is shown by the graph on the right hand side. The transfer function representation of a Hadamard gate is as shown in the figure, and here H is the transfer function operator which relates the y vectors, the output y vector to the input y vector. Next is the control NOT gate. As all of you might know that a control NOT gate has got two qubits, a control qubit and a target qubit. When the control qubit is ket 0, then the target remains unchanged, and when it is ket 1, then the target is flipped. So if we take the target qubit to be alpha ket 0 plus beta ket 1, in case of the control qubit being ket 1, it takes up the form of alpha ket 1 plus beta ket 0. CNOT gate operation with quantum field terminal graph is shown in this figure for both the input as well as the output stages. This is the truth table, where the first two rows of the truth table are showing us the condition when the control qubit is ket 0, and the third and the fourth rows correspond to the condition when the control qubit is ket 1. Therefore, flipping occurs only in the third and fourth rows and it does not occur in the first two rows. The terminal characteristics or transfer function representation is given in this particular figure, and the first row corresponds to the first entry of the truth table and so on. Quantum entangled Bell states. Bell states are called as EPR states. These states are quantum entangled and have the property that these states cannot be decomposed. So there are 4 Bell states which have been shown by the respective quantum field graphs. The first is ket beta 0 0, ket beta 0 1, ket beta 1 0 and ket beta 1 1. Quantum teleportation. Quantum teleportation is a technique of moving quantum states around even in the absence of a quantum communications channel linking the sender and the quantum bit to the recipient. So if the sender has to send some information to the recipient, then it has to be through a classical channel, since there is no quantum channel involved over here. So the information that has to be teleported in this following circuit that is shown is ket psi. There are 3 ports which have been shown over here. The first 2 ports belong to the receiver and the third port belongs to the the first 2 ports belong to the sender and the third port belongs to the receiver, and the information that is or the input that is supplied to the first port is in the form of ket psi, which has to be teleported, and the information supplied to the next 2 ports, that is ports 2 and 3, is in the form of a combined input which is a Bell entangled state ket beta 0 0. So once this information has been supplied, the information received at the receiver's end at port 3 is ket psi, but it's not the same qubit which has been supplied at the first port. You can call it as a twin of that qubit because it possesses the same characteristics perhaps, but it is not that very qubit which has been teleported as such. So it is because of the entanglement that occurs between the next two ports that the qubit is able to be teleported. So Einstein had performed this experiment with the idea of actually disproving quantum theory. But later on, through this experiment, the results which were obtained supported quantum theory. And therefore, he finally said that he called it spooky action at a distance. And the qubits that are obtained are almost similar to each other. So as you can see in this figure, there are 4 stages which according to which this entire circuit works. So in the 0th stage, the input information is supplied to all the 3 ports, and then there is a C0 gate which is present between the 0th stage and the first stage. So it connects the 0th stage to the first stage, and this C0 gate is connected between the first 2 ports. The first port is the control port and the second port is the target port. So whatever information is supplied is accordingly sent to the next stage through this C0 gate. Once it has reached the first stage, then there is a Hadamard gate which is applied to the first port, which in turn then transforms the information from the first port to the second port. Further, the information is measured by the sender, and whatever result is obtained is communicated to the receiver, and the receiver in turn has to suitably apply a particular poly gate to it in order to process the output. So measurement helps in transferring the second stage to the third stage, and finally from the third stage to the fourth stage, a suitable poly gate is helpful in transferring the third stage to the fourth stage. So poly gates are error control gates, and when measurement is made, some error may be present which can be corrected by a suitable quantum gate. So I'll explain the sending end stage 0, and accordingly the other stages can also be understood. So the sending end stage 0, as you can see in this graph, has got 2 parts. The part on the left hand side represents the single qubit which is applied to the first port at the sending end. The second part of the graph represents the quantum entangled bit which is applied to the second and the third ports. So altogether this is representing the information that has to be given as a form of input to all the 3 ports. This is the alternative quantum field terminal graph for YO phi, XO phi, that is the output of the 0th stage. So the composite representation for the quantum entangled double port has been shown over here. So that's why the first, if you look at the first part of this graph, we've represented it as A10. So here 1 is the subscript which is telling us about the port, 0 is the stage. Similarly, the second part of the same figure tells us, is given as A230, where 2 and 3 are the 2 ports and 0 is the stage again. So all the subscripts here are representing the ports and the superscripts are representing the various stages. These are the associated terminal characteristics for the output of the 0th stage. This is the aggregate multiport quantum field terminal graph representation for the 0th stage output. So here, instead of writing the various nodes as A and B's, we have written them as a single node C. So C0, 0, 0, 0 is the first node, where again 0 represents, the superscript 0 is representing the stage and the subscripts are representing the inputs that are supplied to the various ports. So similarly, we can give an argument for the other ones also. This is the aggregate multiport quantum field terminal graph representation for YOI XOI, that is the input at the 0th stage, which has been again represented in a similar manner. Now here we've shown the quantum field subsystem graph for stage 0, where both the input and the output have been shown together. So the dotted lines are representing the output graph, whereas the continuous lines are representing the input graph. So this is the overall representation for stage 0. And the field graph vertex equation has been established as YOI equal to YO phi, and also the field graph circuit equation has been established as XOI plus XO phi equal to 0. Now step 2, stage 1 is when we apply the C0 operator, and flipping at the second port occurs when the C0 gate is applied and when the input is ket 1. In that condition, flipping occurs. And the quantum field terminal graph for the output of the first stage has been represented over here in the aggregate multiport representation. The terminal characteristics in transfer function representation have been shown in this slide, and you can see that Y1 phi is related to YOI through the C0 gate operator, or the transfer function of the C0 gate. The third port is not connected to the C0 gate, and therefore no flipping occurs at the third port and it remains unchanged. The quantum field subsystem graph for stage 1 has been shown here, which is a union of the quantum field terminal graphs for the output as well as the input. Again, the equations have been specified below. Step 3 is the application of a Hadamard gate to the first port, and these are the probable states which have been shown in the end of at the end of the slide. So the number of probable states become 8. Each probable state is transformed into a superposition of 2 probable states. The port-wise disaggregated quantum field terminal graph representation for the second stage output has been shown over here. This is the quantum field terminal graph for the output with simplified aggregate multiport representation. The terminal characteristics in transfer function representation for multiport Hadamard gate have been shown in this graph. So once again, we've related the y vectors through the transfer function operator. The quantum field subsystem graph at stage 2 has been shown here again as the union of the input and the output graphs. And the equations have also been established at this stage. At stage 3, step 4, measurement is made, and the aggregate representation of this of the output at this stage has been shown in this graph. Terminal characteristics in transfer function representation for the third port, that is when measurement gate is applied, have been shown in this slide. Quantum field subsystem graph at stage 3 has been shown again as a union of the input and the output graphs. And also the field vertex equation and the field and the graph circuit equation has been established. Now here you can see the block diagram for a controlled poly gate. The relevant poly gate is characterized by the appropriate matrix for the 4 possible descriptions of the double control qubit CC. When the double control qubit CC is ket 0, 0, then we just have to apply a poly I gate. When it is ket 0, 1, then we need to apply a poly X gate. When it is ket 1, 0, then we need to apply a poly Z gate, and finally when it is ket 1, 1, we need to apply a poly XZ gate. in order to process the output in the required form, because the output that has to be processed is in the form of ket psi. So in order to process it in that form, depending on the measurement which has been made, we have to apply a particular suitable Pauli gate. Step 5, stage 4, this is the quantum field terminal graph for the fourth stage output. Now, terminal characteristics in transfer function representation in terms of controlled Pauli gates have been given in the form of y4 phi equal to Tp y3i, where Tp is again the transfer function operator for the Pauli gate. This is stage 4, where Dirichlet boundary conditions in the disaggregate form have been applied, and both in disaggregate as well as aggregate forms, the graphs have been shown over here. These are the associated terminal characteristics for the Dirichlet boundary conditions. And this is finally the quantum field subsystem graph as a union of the quantum field terminal graphs at stage 4 in the aggregate form with output graph as well as the input graph. This is the quantum field vortex equation and the quantum field circuit equation. So if we look at the results, then a systemic representation of the transfer functions is given over here in this slide, and all the transfer functions are found to be in cascade with each other. So the overall transfer function can be given as T, which is given as Tp, Tm, Th and Tcn, the product of all these transfer functions. Now, unification of all forces in nature is an existent pursuit, and there are many candidate theories. String theory is an excellent candidate for a unified theory of all forces of nature. String theory is a quantum theory, and because it includes gravitation, it is a quantum theory of gravity. The lack of adjustable dimensionless parameters is a sign of the uniqueness of string theory. It means that the theory cannot be deformed or changed continuously by changing these parameters. In special relativity, the speed of light is the same for all inertial observers. In comparing the coordinates of events, two inertial observers called as Lorentz observers find that the appropriate coordinate transformations make space and time. The events are characterized by the values of four coordinates, a time coordinate t and spatial coordinates x, y and z. Now, graph representation for basis state vectors have been shown over here. So, the subscript mu takes the four values 0, 1, 2 and 3. This is the field graph model for x dash mu, which is similar to that to the field graph model of x mu, as you can see in the figure. Now, the light cone coordinate system is very useful in studying string theory, as the quantization of the relativistic string can be worked out most directly in these coordinates. So, the light cone coordinates x plus and x minus are defined as two independent linear combinations of the time coordinate x0 and a chosen spatial coordinate conventionally taken to be as x1. So, it is done as follows. The graph representation for the coordinates x0 and x1 and x plus and x minus have been shown in this figure on both the sides. Now, the light cone coordinates, the light cone at the given event is formed by all the events that can be connected through light rays with the event as shown. When we observe the sky at night, we basically see only the past light cone within the entire space-time. A central concept in special relativity is proper time. Proper time is a Lorentz invariant measure of time. If we consider a moving particle and two events along its trajectory, different Lorentz observers record different values of the time interval between the two events. So, if we now imagine that the moving particle is carrying a clock, the proper time elapsed is the time elapsed between the two events on that clock. By definition, it is an invariant, as all observers of a particular clock must agree on the time elapsed on that clock. These are the relevant equations for momentum in light cone coordinates. And here you can see the block diagram representation. Now, Lorentz invariance with extra dimensions. If string theory is correct, we must entertain the possibility that space-time has more than 4 dimensions. The number of time dimensions must be kept equal to 1. It seems very difficult, if not altogether impossible, to construct a consistent theory with more than 1 time dimension. The extra dimensions must therefore be spatial. Lorentz invariance is a concept that admits a very natural generalization to space-times with additional dimensions. If we have a world with 1 time dimension and 5 spatial dimensions, the graph representation for such x mu, that is a 6-dimensional basis state vector, is as shown in this figure. The dominant modeling methodology of physics is static. We model the universe as a 3+1 dimensional pre-existing structure where time shares a very similar status to that of space, despite our everyday experiences of the two phenomena as being remarkably different. Process physics sprang out of an initial desire to explain from where such a structure could have emerged, that is, from a pre-geometric model of the universe. Process physics, as in the words of Professor Kitto, has now been formulated as a far more general modeling paradigm that is capable of generating complex emergent behavior. Low-level process physics model. The initial low-level model constructed within the process physics paradigm attempts to work around the static object-driven methodology of reductionism by adopting a more relational approach. This is achieved by starting with a set of nodes for the sake of analysis, but instead of focusing upon the objects themselves, the connections between individual nodes are analyzed. So a simple relational structure of nodes, their connections and iterative equations have been shown in this slide. Simulation has been done for the example that was taken up by Dr. Kitto. So the MATLAB steps, the steps in MATLAB simulation for the iterative equation are shown in this particular slide. And finally, the results are shown over here. The value of alpha was taken as 0.1 and the noise term Wij was generated randomly as a random number between 0 and 0.1. So if you look at this, at the results, you find that maximum connectivity is obtained for the iterations of the order of 1000. So instead of considering iterations of the order of 10,000, we consider iterations of the order of 1000. Finally, the conclusions. In terms of system modeling, instead of system scientists and practitioners getting bogged down with similar dreams and modeling theory of everything, one could perhaps look for modeling theory of many things. There is certainly a possibility of founding such a unified modeling theory of many things, not everything, based on linear graph theory and unified field theory. Not just quantum or string theory, but perhaps some futuristic M-string theory or whatever that qualifies as the grand unified theory of so-called everything. The modeling theory of many things will then span perhaps all kinds of systems, including natural systems, designed physical systems, designed abstract systems, and human activity systems. Various kinds of systems can give rise to their own peculiar problems, which can be attempted to be resolved to the extent possible. Kitto gave a complexity scale, and she prepared this complexity scale for systems ranging from simple through complicated to complex. So in the next slide, the complexity scale which was prepared by Professor Kitto has been shown, and this is a classification of systems according to their complexities. Examples have been given for the various types of systems, and also the theories governing these systems have been shown over here. These are the acknowledgements and finally the references. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Srivastava, for that lucid exposition to the field graph modeling of quantum systems. If there are any questions, we can take them just now. Okay, then, yeah, you have a question.
Yeah, my question is, does your graph theoretic representation or model provide you insights which are unexpected, which take you beyond the usual representation of quantum computing?
I don't think so. They take us into anything unusual. The graph is just a representation of the same, of the various concepts of quantum theory, but there's nothing unusual as such that one can notice through these graphs.
So there's nothing additional that you get. This is just a representation scheme, right?
Yeah.
The quantum phenomenon involves nonlinearity when you make a measurement. And even in this situation, working with aggregate and disaggregate graph, it has been possible to get an overall transfer function model, which I think is not represented usually in quantum mechanical work. So that, I believe, is one of the spin-offs. The other is that it might serve as a model for system of systems, because this is all the attributes of the so-called system of systems. It has the telecommunication, it has nonlinearity, it has uncertainty, and then it gives rise to 4 different models in this particular case, quantum teleportation, in the example presented. So it's a model of models, as it were, and handles them all together. Thank you.